Welcome back to a very special episode of the Bonsai Builders podcast. I'm your host, Addison Galambos. Every 2 years, the California bonsai community holds one of my favorite events, the Joshua Roth Rising Stars competition. 6 artists with under 10 years of experience are chosen to represent their various regions, and in a live 8-hour marathon, they each style a similar tree, and then they're judged by the headliners. Today, you'll meet the artists, hear what drives them, and get a sense of the energy and mindset going into this pretty unique event in the bonsai community.
Happy to be here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Thank you for having us.
Awesome. So to start, let's maybe go around and introduce ourselves for folks. So let's maybe start with your name, what part of California you're representing, and then a little bit about your bonsai background. So actually, Danny, if you don't mind, would you mind going first, and then maybe I'll round out at the end?
Sure, not a problem. My name is Daniel Martinez. My friends call me Danny, so I kind of grew up with that name. But when I moved to California about 15 years ago, I thought it was time to have a grown-up name. So I told people I started meeting here, start calling me Daniel. That way I feel more adultish. So I'm representing the Santa Barbara Bonsai Club, probably Ventura County, not really SoCal, but it's kind of SoCal because we're like near the LA area. That's kind of representing, not further south. I got into bonsai like when I was a kid, but growing up, and since I'm originally from South Texas, there was no community for learning bonsai there. So it was always just something I loved and appreciated from afar because I lived in a town where it's like 110 degrees, for 360 days of the year and then 5 days of winter and then back to the heat. Growing something there without any sort of community to learn from how to grow trees in that kind of climate was non-existent. So when I finally moved here to California, I found that there was a lot of opportunity to learn from people. And when I initially started learning from people that grew up from or were trained under the John Naka tree, of teaching, former students who, of course, were kind of getting on in years as well. But I learned initially from like Ted Matz and from Cheryl Manning. Those people kind of came to our club meetings and were teaching and doing workshops and stuff like that. We had Roy Nakatoshi every once in a while from the general area. Jim Barrett as well used to come do workshops at our club when I first started. So that's how I kind of started getting my feet wet into bonsai. And then after that is like when I did that initially to just kind of start figuring it out because my wife bought me my first bonsai tree. And I was like, I'm only going to start with 5 and I'm not going to get any more of that until I get good. And anybody that does bonsai knows you don't have 5 trees if you're doing bonsai. So that quickly grew from one little tiny bench to 2 benches to 4 benches to 8 benches. And it just got out of hand. And I realized and it was all just really early young material when I first started. And I was just a sponge soaking up stuff from YouTube, and I really wanted to learn more and more. So I finally got to the point where I said, I need to study under somebody who knows stuff. The club was great. It was great to network with those people and learn from them who have been doing it for many, many, many years. But I wanted a little bit more. And so on a psychology conference trip, my wife had a psychology conference trip in Portland. On a lark, I said, hey, can we go see this one bonsai garden? It was Ryan Neal's bonsai garden when he had just started out. Not right when he started out, but he had already been established for a little bit. So we go to the website, call up the phone number at the bottom, asking if my wife calls the number, saying, hey, we're in town. Can we come by and see your trees? Just to view the garden. And little did I know that he picked up the phone. His phone number, his personal phone number was the number on the website. So he picked it up. And when she goes, is this Ryan Neal? And I was standing on the side going, oh my God, are you really talking to Ryan Neal? And I got a little bit starstruck at that moment.
Did you grab the phone from her? No, I'm just kidding.
No, I was gobsmacked. I didn't know, I couldn't say anything. So she did all the talking for me while I was just kind of there hyperventilating. But we did set an appointment to go by visit the garden. And when I went there, I said, okay, looking through his trees, I go, this is the way I want my trees to look. If I'm going to start doing this and taking it a little bit more serious on a personal level and not just as a hobby, these are how I want my trees to look. Because at the time I was exploring, studying under Michael Hagedorn or going to Boone. Boone was there in the Bay Area at the time and much closer to me than going all the way to Oregon to study. And then just from there, I've just been studying with Ryan since and with any other local professionals that will come to our club. And that's how I got started in it.
Very cool. I would love if everyone could kind of point out like something that inspires you or one of the you're like exactly how you shared about your teachers along their journey. So we want to jump to Julius?
All right. Hello, everyone. Hi, I'm Julius Clado, aka Juicy Bonsai. So that's what I call my age right now and my collection. Started 2021, fairly new. It was just an accident. Actually, I was trying to find a hobby and I explored chameleons. So when I set up a spot for my chameleons, I used like the artificial plants. And then I said to myself, why not use the real trees? If I'm gonna use one, then probably just use bonsai trees in it. So I explored about it, and then I did away with the chameleons because they're too much of a maintenance. And then I stayed with bonsai trees after that. So in the Philippines, I used to do dog shows and fish shows. The flower horn fish with the ones with the big heads. So those are my hobbies. But coming in the U.S., migrating from the Philippines, I didn't have any of those. I didn't have the space and anything of that. So I was, well, maybe I can do bonsai as my outlet, as my therapy for being a hobbyist myself. I wanted to find something, so I got into it. YouTube videos. I attended a bonsai sale of Marine Bonsai Club 2021. That's where I got my first formal tree from Chris Ross, and then they invited me over to join the club, and that's how I started learning. And then when I went to Santanella, the showing shows, that's where I met my one of my teachers, Sam Adina. And then after that, I kept going on. I think this might be the one for me right now, according to my situation and stuff. So yeah, after that, it just snowballed from there. I started acquiring a lot of trees, and yeah, learning more from my teachers, like fellow Filipinos that are here, Sir Caleb. And then I went home to the Philippines. Some of the bonsai enthusiasts there, like Del Marima, Eldrin Doroteo, they're the ones teaching me. So I have a little bit of the tropical and the American version of bonsai trees. I still have trees there, so someone's taking care of them for me. And then yeah, right now got a couple of trees, and yep, I forgot. I'll be representing the Bay Marine Bonsai Club, which is in San Rafael. So I'm very privileged that I got chosen and appreciated. My work has been appreciated. Thanks.
That's awesome. I wonder how many other folks were in like related hobbies, like garden making or for example, I did aquascaping in the past. So I'm curious if other people have similar things that they were interested or there's like adjacent pursuits that lead you to bonsai. I think you've definitely got the best moniker, Juicy Bonsai. That's pretty solid. Cool. Why don't we go ahead and jump over to Ian?
Yeah, thank you. My name is Ian Baker. I just want to say thanks for putting this together, Addison. I think it's kind of a rad opportunity for us to get to know each other a little bit ahead of time. I think that's the main benefit of us getting together, and if anybody listens to it, fantastic. So I am in the Sacramento area. I live, if you triangulate between Davis Winters and Woodland, I'm out in the middle of nowhere, the valley. So I'm representing ABAS, and one of my earliest memories of all time is being in my grandpa's bonsai garden in Napa, and me probably dicking around with the irrigation controller. So I've had this lifelong interest. I am a greenhouse manager. I work for a tomato breeding company, so I'm steeped in horticulture and growing plants and plant related systems. So throughout my life, I've like carried this idea with me that I love bonsai and I want to learn how to do it. And I never really made any progress. I bought the of questionably value DK books and that sort of thing, and it's like, you can only learn so much from a book, especially poor quality ones. So I joined American Bonsai Sacramento in 2020, and that is really when things took off for me. Obviously joining a network of bonsai enthusiasts opens a lot of doors to opportunities to learn, from professionals. So I was really just ready to gobble up everything that I had the chance to that I came across. So any traveling pros, I always try to do workshops whenever I have the chance. And then I've worked primarily with Peter T. in Auburn, not as often as I'd like, but it's still fantastic to see what is possible with high quality bonsai. And I think that that's something that a lot of people don't get, especially starting out. It's hard to get that exposure to like incredible high quality bonsai without being around the professionals or visiting expos that have that kind of material. So it goes without saying, my collection sort of grew exponentially since then, and now I've finally reached that breaking point, even though I've been told for a while now that I need to not have so many trees. I finally wrap my head around the fact that I have too many trees, and I'm really starting to hone in on, which are worth my time and which aren't. And I'm not going to be running a nursery as much as I like to pretend that I am. So yeah, I don't know. That's my bonsai journey. Also, let me throw in that I grew up in the foothills up above Auburn, and I've spent a lot of time out in the forest in the Sierra and the High Sierra. And especially when you get up to the high elevations, it's really easy to understand where this sort of primal inspiration and motivation for bonsai comes from when you see, life-size trees, life-size bonsai in nature, and sort of understanding the factors that create them, wind, snow load, poor nutrients, poor soil conditions, and sort of putting that together with our techniques and practices at home. It kind of clicks for me. So yeah, I'm into Yamadori, which fits into all of that as well. Like the excuse to be outside. I've got my collecting kit in my truck at all times, because you never know what you're going to come across. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, I just put two and two together that I loved your lecture that you did on irrigation systems for ABAS. It's on YouTube, I think, and I took a bunch of notes, and that's what I used to help design my system. So thank you for putting that out there. But
awesome,
yeah, really cool to meet you like this.
Yeah.
Cool. Matt, do you want to take us away?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name's Matthew Gelacio. I'll be representing San Diego on the San Diego Bonsai Club. Similar to Julius, I got into bonsai completely by accident. I was coming home from college during the pandemic. I was going to college an hour away. I was living an hour away. I figured there wasn't any reason for me to stay there during the pandemic, so I moved back home and was just looking for hobbies. And around the same time, I think everyone that was stuck inside their house was somehow finding their green thumb. So I was actually looking for houseplants at first, but then I stumbled upon bonsai, fell down a rabbit hole. So I ended up with 0 houseplants and a bunch of bonsai trees. So that was the beginning of my bonsai journey. I think it's hard to talk about my bonsai journey without mentioning my mentor and teacher, Fred Miyahara. He really did open a lot of doors for me. He introduced me to a bunch of my teachers, Julian Tsai, Jonas Dupuis, a lot of people in, the San Diego and LA area. And I'm just excited to be in this competition with all you guys. What kind of trees I like to work on? I don't know. Right now, I am kind of working on my needle junipers. Even though it hurts, I don't know if that sounds crazy, but there's something about developing needle junipers for me right now that is on my mind. I'll keep everything short and sweet. I'm not a big talker, so I'll pass it on to Ryan after that.
Thank you, Matthew.
Yeah, I'm Ryan Pitts. I'm representing the LA area. I kind of fell into this by accident too. In 2019, a buddy of mine bought a house, so I Googled housewarming gifts, and I got Eastern Leaf Bonsai popped up, which is a place kind of close to me, like 10 minutes down the road. Of course, now I know that's a terrible gift because he immediately killed it. But I bought 2. I bought one for him and one for me, and I kept mine alive and kept going. After that, I got really hooked. Me and my girlfriend we drove from San Diego to Seattle, stopping at every bonsai place we could find, looking for, gardens and teachers and stuff. Little did I know there was a guy also right next to Eastern Leaf named David Wee, who I ended up finding a couple years later, and he became my teacher. I joined the Chino Bonsai Club, which he's the sensei of, and I'm now the president of. So that's kind of how I came to it. I also had a couple of friends that did this competition the last time around, which was the first time I'd gone to one of these GSBF. Well, they're not conventions anymore, rendezvous, and they had a blast. I think what they said they took away from it was they got, new friendships with everybody that they were competing with, and they really enjoyed that aspect. So I wanted to do it because of that. And really, I wanted to do it because I just wanted to hang out with Matthew a bunch. I'm a Matthew Gelacio fan, so that's goal number one here.
I'm a fan
Yeah,
of you,
me
dude.
too, honestly. Who isn't? Yeah, honestly, whenever I was like, oh, cool, I got accepted into the competition. I hope Matt's not in it. And then he was the next name I saw. So awesome. So, I mean, already I'm seeing so many commonalities between us, which is funny. But yeah, so I guess I can tell a little bit about myself. I was interested in bonsai when I was younger, but I didn't really get a chance to kind of start taking a bite out of it until I was more static after college. Whenever I settled down, I lived in Oakland, and I ended up going by BGLM, the bonsai garden at Lake Merritt. And I saw Kathy Shaner and Jerry Carpenter working there, and I was like, hey, can I, do some stuff with the trees? This seems cool. And they started inviting me, every few weekends I would come by and work with them. And then I started buying some trees, and I didn't really get better at bonsai for like my first 4 years of doing it. So I kind of just had trees, and they were growing really well, and I would try to add some wire, and it'd look like those horror stories you see on Reddit or whatever. And then, yeah, maybe 3 years ago, I moved to San Francisco, and I started working with Sam Tan. And that was my first experience where I started like just doing cool projects with him and started getting some like actual feedback regularly on like, oh, hey, like you misapplied this wire, or here's where you prune, or this is how you repot. So started getting that experience. But, he's a fellow kind of hobbyist, and he's very good, but, he's not a teacher per se. And so I started seeking out some classes. And so I took classes with Todd Schlafer, which were awesome. And then I started working with Andrew Robson. And then maybe the last, honestly, maybe 9 to 12 months, I've been really regularly working with Adam Toth and Ryan Neal. And I felt like that's getting more touch points with professionals like more regularly has really helped me start to speed up a lot faster. I wish I would have done this a year before the competition instead of the year of the competition. But yeah, that's kind of my journey to today. Just trying to get better and really enjoying it and liking how deep and broad the hobby is, or profession, depending on which way you go. Cool. So yeah, it was great to hear about everyone. Ryan, you gave a little bit already of like what your why is, like why be in this competition, but I'm curious if you want to expand on that, or if anybody wants to jump in with, this like creating a bonsai in one session is kind of an antithetical or like opposite of what bonsai is, right? It's this thing that you create over a long time period. So doing like a one-stop shop competition is not really a common thing that you do in bonsai, I'd say, right? So it's kind of a unique competition. So would love to hear from folks like why put yourself through this, or like what excites you about it. And yeah, we can kind of just go around. Do you jump in any order? Would love to hear people's motivations for signing up for this.
Well, since you mentioned my name, I've been traveling for the last couple of years with my sensei doing demos for clubs and, assisting with demos for clubs and things. So my training, the way he teaches is he teaches you in a manner that he expects you to be going out doing demos for clubs and things. So building a tree in a short period of time is not the ideal way to make a tree, but it's something I've done, more than once. So, everybody has mixed opinions on should we do demos? Do we not do demos? This is not a good way to teach people how to do bonsai, because this is not how you're supposed to do bonsai. It's supposed to be iterative and built upon, and just making an instant bonsai is not conducive to learning. Neither is watching TV all day, but people still do it because it's fun. For me, it's just kind of a fun thing to do, and it'd be cool, I think, to have your work looked at by Morrow and Suthen, just to get some feedback. I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, I feel like there's a big like anti-demo kind of wave within the community, but to me, it's actually a really interesting way to appreciate the art. And, it's also takes a unique skill set, and developing that skill set like incidentally helps you design better trees in the future, right? I don't think it's like 100% throwaway work to do a demo, like, or even a large percentage throwaway work. So I love that take on like your teacher teaches you in a way that is conducive to helping you design bonsai and like put the most into the work in a single session that you can. And then that doesn't mean you can't iterate on it, but still make the best product right away.
It forces you to pick a design quickly, like be able to look at a tree, evaluate it quickly, and go. If you're doing a demo, you don't have time to look at it for a day and think, well, just keep turning it around. What do I do? What do I do? You got to be able to evaluate a tree and do it quickly. Same thing if you're doing like workshops. If you're doing a workshop with a club, you've got 10 people in a workshop. You can't sit there humming and hawing for, 20 minutes a tree. Otherwise, you'd be out of time. So, I mean, it's one benefit to that method of learning.
So it helps you develop like a professional skill set, essentially, like something that's helpful for those types of experiences where your time is money and where the people that are paying you is time is money, obviously, right? So
Right.
Cool. Yeah, it's a cool take. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's so much of this is efficiency and decision making, right? Like I've been trying to practice as much as I can, and I find myself out working in the workshop and, thinking and evaluating about things for inordinate amounts of time. And it's like, that's not going to work for the Rendezvous competition. Like, time management is going to be a key factor, and you have to be able to make decisions quickly and hopefully feel confident about them while also still being flexible, right? Because I don't know, you don't want to lock yourself into something and not think about other possibilities if it's better. Really quick, circling back to the motivations thing and a little bit about the demos and instant bonsai as well. I think that's my motivation to get involved with this. Is I'm not a competitive person. I'm not even thinking about the fact that it's a competition that much. I mean, I am. I'm not. I don't mean I don't care, but I wanted to sort of have the opportunity and the catalyst to level up and to really force myself to practice, because bonsai is about practice, right? It's like any art, like learning music, you have to work it to be good at it. And so this has been kind of a lever to improve my practice. So I think one of the harder parts about this whole thing is going to be like walking this line between, building something that looks good, quote unquote, instant bonsai, versus like doing the right thing for the long term. And, how is it going to be judged? How are people in the audience going to look at what we do and evaluate it? I think that generally speaking, more and more people understand long-term bonsai, and, you're not going to get scoffed at for leaving sacrifice branches or that sort of thing. So I think that that's on our side, but yeah, this is a big question mark for me. I don't know exactly where I'm going to land on how I execute on this, but it's an interesting tension.
That's something I've been thinking about a little bit is in the last competition, there weren't a lot of folks who left like whole branches on there, covered with a towel or something like that, just for the health of the tree. It'd be a good question to ask the judges about whether they would ding for something like that, right? Because, if you can leave more foliage on the tree and it's not, you can make it less distracting for the design, then, it could be a good avenue to walk that line of keeping the health of the tree and also creating a compelling design. Cool.
Well, I mean, I can go next. I mean, for me, the why of why I'm doing this is basically it's just a personal challenge for me. I'm not much into competition, and my biggest flaw is I'm slow. I'm very slow because I tend to be very methodical. I tend to work on the tree. I'll set the structure, and then I'll step back and stay away from the tree for like a day and give myself a chance to reset my view of the tree. Because for me personally, when I'm working on my trees, I feel I can get too focused on what I'm trying to accomplish as opposed to what the tree is really going to give me. So by stepping back for a day after I set the structure, I can look at that and say, okay, yeah, that looks right. That looks like I did it right. No, I need to move this. This structural branch needs to be a little bit further to the back to create some foreshortening of the tree and some depth in the back. And being able to do that, I can then come in and then start working on secondary and tertiary type of things. So that being said, like I am slow. So to do this one is going to be a challenge for me personally, just to be able to complete the tree in a single day. And it also goes back to the thing, what's best for the tree. Junipers, I remember last year when they did this competition and the other competitions that they've done, the trees are always very healthy, so, and they're junipers. They'll take a lot. And especially at the time of year that we're working on them, being in California, we don't have harsh winters. So whatever we do to these trees and we work on them, as long as we're not defoliating them, which you would never do, the trees will be fine. The trees will be good. And as long as you don't completely, whack off all the foliage. I mean, there'll be a lot of plenty of roots in there. But yeah, I mean, and why I did is because I wasn't really thinking of doing the competition. It was actually one of my club members who he really encouraged me to kind of step out of my comfort zone and do this. He was the VP of our bonsai club, Mark Britton, and he said, "Man, you should do it. You should do it. You should do it. Your trees are good. You should do it." And I'm like, "No, I shouldn't. No, I'm too old. No, because I'm probably the oldest one here out of everybody, man. All you guys look. I know Matthew looks really young. You, especially you, Addison, man. Come on, grow some beard.
How
I
Be
just
manly
shaved
like
this morning.
Ryan.
Yeah, Ryan.
Now you got to tell us how old you are.
Brian's got the beard I wish I had, but yeah. So I'm the oldest guy here, and probably I'm just looking for it. For me, it's a personal challenge. It's not. I'm not challenging you guys. I'm challenging myself, and I'm just looking forward to this and see what we all create with the trees that we get.
Absolutely. I mean, this hobby's too small to create animosity between people anyways, right? Like, I'm just psyched that there's other people that share interests with me, so it makes a lot of sense. I thought you touched on another interesting piece, which was there's probably different challenges to this competition for each of us, right? Like you were talking about the time component of the experience. But I'm curious, so I definitely want to hear from Julius and Matt on like their whys. But if you also want to think about maybe for a follow-up question about like, hey, which aspect of this competition is the most challenging for you personally? That could be interesting too.
Yeah, for me, I'm looking at this competition as sort of a chance or opportunity to reflect on like where my skills are now. Like I've been doing bonsai for 5 years, and for the first like 2 or 3 years I was only working on like nursery material. I mean, I was straight out of college, I had no money. So I didn't have any access to pre-bonsai material. I mean, I didn't even find the San Diego Bonsai Club until year 2 or 3. So a lot of what I was working on was just straight up nursery material from my local nursery. And I think just trying to find the tree in something that wasn't meant to be a bonsai was something that I was continually practicing. As far as challenges, I think time also is probably my biggest concern. Like Danny, like I spend like hours just looking at the tree. Like I'll spin that tree on the turntable like 20 times before I even touch it. But yeah, I'm excited to see how I'll adapt to that situation, and yeah.
Awesome. I think it's good to think of it as for all of us, right? This is just a point in time. It's not like, oh, your tree wasn't that great this time. We all have the rest of our lives to keep getting good at bonsai, right? And so this is a personal journey for each of us, and we're all at different stages of that journey. So, I love that it seems like everyone's approaching it with the mindset of this is a point along my journey. It doesn't define my journey, right?
I guess it's my turn. All right. So for the whys, I wasn't looking at this hobby as a long term, as a short term hobby. Like, you can do it in one sitting and compete in one day. I was looking at it that usually the shows that I go to, they're training those trees for decades. So I was like, oh, this is gonna take a long time. And then when I attended one of my clubs, Marine Bonsai Club's meeting, Chris Roth, one of my mentors, approached me. He when he saw me, he bounced out of his seat and said, "How long have you been doing bonsai?" 4 years. You're chosen to do the Joshua Roth thing. What's that? Because I really have no idea about that. Oh, you're gonna do this and that. Oh, really? You have that? I've been doing dog shows and flower horn shows my whole life. So it's like pretty. One of my mantra is prove and improve. So with everything I do, I wanna prove myself and then improve from that. So I think this would be a great way to learn, to showcase my talent, my learnings from the short time that I've been doing this, because I know people have been doing this for decades and stuff. It's a pretty humbling and pretty exciting experience. And I know after this, you get to meet more people. Yeah, especially right now, I'm meeting you guys virtually. We'll be there for 8 hours together. So it's gonna be an exciting experience for all of us. And yeah, after that, our bonsai journey goes on, and then there's gonna be more learnings, and yeah, that's the why, because I really, whenever I focus myself on one thing, I really want to make the best out of it and learn as much as I can until I can say that, oh, yep, I think I'm on that stage, that, as you know. But that's what's humbling with bonsai, is it's a continuous learning process. You can never learn that much, because it's a continuous process. Your artwork is a living art form. So it's different. That's exciting. That's what's exciting with bonsai. Yeah, it's never done until it's done. So I think for the challenge, yeah, same thing with Daniel and Matthew, that you've been looking at a tree for hours. For me, I leave the tree for like 2 days, 3 days. I just bring it outside to have some sun, and then I bring it back in my living room. And what do I do with this until I have the confidence to work on it? Yeah, time is really the challenge with this competition, but it's pretty exciting, because
So
you have to.
your studio is in your living room too?
It's not a studio. It's just like this.
Yeah.
It's the sliding door to my
Oh, you're right. That, I mean, I bring trees into the house all the time, and I'm
mhm.
so lucky. My wife lets me set up my turntable and a backdrop and everything right there, right next to the dining table that we never
Exactly.
use. We don't eat at the dining. We eat at the kitchen table. So the dining table is
Mm-hmm.
kind of like where I put all my tools on top of and stuff like that. But yeah, it's just nice to hear that you say
Same.
you bring a tree inside to work on.
Yes. Yeah, same. Lucky with my wife that hey, you do what you do. She supports me with everything. So
I used to bring my trees into my bedroom until I started stepping on my needle foliage and spiders were coming into my room. So I'd stop that.
Yeah, you better be really sure you got every needle, especially in your bedroom. Not a good way to wake up to have to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night or something.
It's worse than a Lego.
Yeah,
It
definitely
really
worse than a
is.
Lego. Well, that's so funny.
I got
Yeah, I
both.
guess
I got my boys Legos and my foliage that I step on. So it's crazy.
double whammy. I did for a little bit have bring my trees inside, but I kind of set up a little area on my deck where I can work now, and I just do it not when the sun's on that spot. So I do it in the morning and in the afternoon after the sun's gone by the spot where my workshop is. Cool. Yeah,
I ran out of room outside to work on trees. That's why I have to bring them inside.
yeah, I'm rapidly. Well, I'm there actually, but I just don't. All I have is a deck, so it's like really not that. It's unfair, you know. But yeah, I guess my why. I mean, kind of similar to Ian. Well, I think I just kind of signed up. I was like, oh man, Sam did this 2 years ago. It seemed really fun. Like I should do it. And then I got accepted, and I was like, oh crap. Everyone's really good, and this is actually way harder than I thought it was going to be. So I started a little bit of a boot camp for myself this year, where I've kind of done maybe like probably. I mean, based on I kind of like track my hours and time that I spend, and I'm like double the number of hours that I was the previous year. But as I put in more time to practice for the competition, I'm like, I just realized how much farther away I am from where I would want to be to like really show up and crush it. But yeah, I'm just thinking of it as already this competition has gotten me, has like been a cool goalpost to shoot for, to push myself to put more time into this thing that I really enjoy, right? And it's definitely a great motivator. So yeah, I've been enjoying it in that context, and it's also helped me like as I go to these different teachers, I have more of a focus on like, oh, I want to practice this specific thing because this is the thing that I'm struggling the most with when I'm doing a styling at home, and I need like your guidance on overcoming that hurdle. So I think there should be more competitions like this, or not even competitions, but like just more chances to do things like this for people, because it's a great catalyst, I think, for the hobby, for getting people more involved and giving them goals. Just like a show, for example, would be, right? Like you need to put all this work in to have your tree in the show. Like having the PBE in California, for me at least, has definitely transformed how I interact with the hobby. Like I'm now thinking of trees in my collection, bringing them in and out based on, oh, is this a tree that could get into the Pacific Bonsai Expo or not, right? And so without those compelling events, right, this competition or the PBE or another show, you don't really get that experience. So I love that they have this, that it's available, and looking forward to meeting everyone at the competition and all doing our best. So one question I have for all of you is, okay, it's the start of the competition. You got your tree picked out. It's 8 a.m. or whatever time they start us off. What's the first step in your process if it's not proprietary? Like, what's the first thing you're gonna do?
Choose a front.
For me, it's
If that-
clean it. I gotta clean the tree. That way I get a feel for it. It's kind of one of the things I always do when I get a new tree in front of me. I'll do like what Matthew says, just spin the tree around, look at it, get a feel for the tree. Where is it at health wise? What's it telling me? I know that sounds kind of corny, but that's kind of the way I approach the tree. I'll clean it up, remove unnecessary stuff. Anything that is structurally flawed, I automatically take that away. And then after that, that's the next step I go into is I start, okay, where's the best angles, trunk, the base, and then I'll choose a front and then go from there. But me personally, it's just always I got to clean the tree first, remove anything that's unnecessary that absolutely doesn't contribute to any sort of design whatsoever. And that makes it easier for me to see the tree. And maybe I just gave away everything. So now you guys are going to win and I'm just going to be there all sad.
That was the differentiation right there. You gave up your secret. Well, thank you.
That's the way I approach it. And that's why I tell like a lot of people that, I have one guy in my neighborhood. He comes over to my place. He's a young kid and he started getting interested. And when he comes over to my place and we start working on trees, he's got some really nice trees himself. And those are the kind of things I tell him to do when he first sits down and looks at the tree is just clean it, get to know the tree, touch the tree. And then from there, start figuring out what you want to do with the tree.
So I've been developing like an actual written checklist for the last few years, just based on like starting with club member workshops and working with professionals and stuff, so that I can really ingrain the order of operations in terms of evaluation, right? Like getting down to the rootage and checking that out, choosing the front. I think one of the interesting things about this is we're really learning to read a tree. I mean, we're learning to manipulate a tree in tree time, which is way different than human time. And everything, starts at the roots and works its way out. So we're learning to read it that way. Most civilians look at a tree and they see a silhouette, they see some foliage, but we are training to start at the trunk and work our way outwards to the branches and really think about things node at a time, division at a time. Hopefully by the time of the competition, this is an ingrained thing and it's not like, I need to check my checklist and make sure I've got all the things there. But also having that written out, will help me know where I need to be, in a different environment. And that's one of the biggest challenges of all this is going to be like, I can practice all I want in my greenhouse. It's not going to be at a hotel in Santanella with a bunch of random people around. Like maybe I should go to the mall or the airport and practice so I can get used to distraction.
Man, that's next level immersion. I didn't even think of that strategy.
Well, to be clear, I haven't done that. Yeah. So yeah, really learning to read it from the inside out. And I'm kind of like a spacey artist. I tend to get distracted by things and like jump around. So it takes a little bit of extra discipline for me to like really, okay, I'm working on this branch right now. And now I'm working on this branch. And yeah, basically I'm going to start by picking a front and tracing my main line and, going from there.
My approach is probably the same thing as Danny. I start by cleaning the tree. Mike Pisello came to the San Diego club to give a demo, and one of the first things he said was the tree is getting to know a tree. And I mean, that's basically been my approach for every bonsai tree that I've worked on or am starting to work on. Yeah, after that, I think what I look for are any interesting features, flaws that I can turn into features, or what kind of proportion am I looking for with the design. I tend to think about structure first and then silhouette. All these just mental checklists that I have in my head that I bring to every tree. I'm not going to approach this tree any different, so.
Anything you want to add there, Julius?
Yep. There you go. For me, it's just looking at the tree, spinning it like 100 times to see the key features of the tree. And then cleaning it up. Cleaning it up is the most important part, and that's where you see all the features more and what you want to emphasize, and taking one branch at a time, because bonsai is, no matter how much you want that tree to look like how you planned it to be, as you go along the way it would change. And so I just play along however the trees want to be styled. That's just how I do it.
Awesome. Does anybody draw? Does anybody like draw the design that they want to do before they start? I'm curious about that because I think people are pretty divided over that, like draw versus not draw. So I'm curious if anybody does that.
Sometimes.
I do. Not on all trees, but I'll do it sometimes. For me, I can't like picture things in my head. Like if you tell me to like imagine something in my head, I cannot see anything. I just see nothing. So for me, seeing the tree in a picture and drawing over it has been a very helpful tool for me that I found. Does anyone else do the same thing?
I did in the beginning because my original background is I was a graphic designer, so I had an art degree. I did design. I worked for a couple of advertising agencies and stuff like that early on in my career before I went into the IT field. So that's another thing I'm really curious about everybody else is like if you have any sort of if you had any type of art background, like even drawing as a kid. I mean, because that's what all I did is in high school, like just drew and painted, and I wanted to be an artist. And then I realized, I'm not going to make any money doing that. And which is great because in the IT field, I do make some good money, which allows me to buy some good trees now. And then that's where my artistic outlet comes now is actually doing bonsai. But yeah, early on when I first started, playing around with bonsai, I would sketch out a tree, sketch out a design, and it looked cool, but then I could never really make the tree look like what I drew. So I kind of just started sticking with like, how can I get the tree started on its journey and then develop it from there. And then, in 3-4 years, it changes completely from whatever I originally thought it was, and I'll make it into a new design.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll kind of...
same thing.
No, go ahead, Julius.
Yeah, same thing. I kind of take a picture of my tree, the one that I want to work on, and then just use the photo editor app to put like a guide on branch placements and everything, and then this just how I want to visualize it, and hopefully it would turn out that way. At least you got like a guide sample for all the raw materials that I work on. I just put on like the branching and stuff. That's how I work on it. Yep.
I remember Sergio Kwan used to do that as a service. He would allow people would send in photos of the trees to him, and he would actually sketch it out and potential of like, okay, you can make pads here, add some deadwood there. He would do a really nice illustration, redesign of your tree. I don't know if he still does that. I haven't seen him post anything about that lately.
Well, that's interesting.
Or was it just me that saw that for a while on his feed?
No, he has, yeah. I think Ryan does some of that on his like forum Q&As and things like that too, like drawing on trees with the stylus on a picture. I'll kind of, I guess, go the opposite direction. I'm so terrible at drawing. My handwriting is horrendous. Illegible. Worse than a doctor handwriting, and I'm not very good at drawing. I'd say I'm creative, but I'm not very artistic, or like I haven't had a lot of artistic pursuits. So I'd say the thing I'm most worried about the thing where I'm trying to get the most improvement right now is like on the design aspect. But so much of my bonsai journey so far has been like, I'll figure out the art later. I want to just be really good at the techniques. And so I'm less worried about like, am I going to be able to finish the tree, and more about, is it going to look good? But part of my process is, it's much less like I don't draw or visualize the whole tree necessarily before I start. It's more like I'm trying to apply rules that I've learned from folks to the design, where it's like, this branch starts on this side of the tree. Well, I pick my like line base to tip, right? And then the way I'm approaching it is this branch comes from here, and so it has to go here, essentially. Like that kind of approach of like, because A is true, then B has to be true, thus C has to be true. And so I have these little rules of like components that make up a design, and you kind of put those together, and then you have a completed design, and then you come back and tweak things. But it doesn't really involve a lot of like visualization of the finished product before I get there. It's more like thing A comes into place, and then because thing A is there, then thing B has to be here, and then just making a believable distribution of branches around the tree, right? So it's more of like a nature dictates the design looks like this, as opposed to a like, I know when I start the design, what it's going to look like. But I'd say like one of the biggest challenges I have is getting that structural setting correct and believable, right? And so maybe if I did do more design in that way, in the manner that you guys talk about it, then I'd improve at that. So something that definitely I'm trying to work on.
Yeah, I used to draw.
Getting good movement through bending, that's the challenge. Sorry, go
I was
ahead,
going
man.
to say I used to draw the trees back when I started all the time, and sometimes I still will. Like if I'm at work and I'm thinking about bonsai, I'll just start drawing trees. Like thinking, what can I do with my trees? And I'll start drawing them, and all my coworkers, that's the bonsai guys, drawing trees again. But I don't try to visualize my trees through drawing before I work on them any longer. I just start working. And for the first step thing, I just go with the front. I find whatever I think is going to be the best front, and I take away anything that doesn't work with it, and I just go. I tend to clean as I wire, just because I've been, like whipped into going for speed. So I kind of just go do it all at once. I'm curious because you were talking about you've been increasing your hours and practicing, like forcing yourself to practice. I haven't practiced at all besides just refining the trees that I have in my collection. I called Ed Clark, who provides the trees for the competition. He's a grower up in the Fresno area. I said, Ed, I want to buy a tree to practice. He said, I'm all out. I barely had enough for the competition. Come back in 5 years. I said, okay. So I haven't practiced at all. Has everybody been practicing?
So
Not as much as I plan to.
I'm just working on my trees. That's it.
Yeah, I've got a bunch
well,
of junipers right now that I'm working on. So it's just like they're not raw material. They're already like the trees that they're already in refinement. So that's not really helping me prepare for this because, like I said, I'm not. There's two trees actually right now that I'm working on that are young material, and I'm working on one Rocky Mountain juniper right now, a very formal, upright, very old looking one that I planted on a rock, and just it was a big bush. And what I did is it's right now on my turntable, and I just hacked it away to create a very ancient looking kind of tree where the whole top part I ginned off. I removed almost 60% of the foliage on the tree, created a lot of dead branches hanging off the edge to make it look like something you would actually see out in the mountains, just struggling for survival. And then I stopped. Like I said, I'm slow. So it's sitting there on my bench, all this deadwood created, all this foliage cut off. Now I just need to go in there and start doing the secondary work.
I have been practicing, I'd say, but whenever I saw the competitors, I was like, oh man, I need to really put in some hours or I'm going to embarrass myself relative to these folks. So, maybe my practice is equivalent to the work that you guys already put in. But I think the biggest challenge for me in practicing has been it's hard to get material that's like, I think you should always practice how you play, right? Like that was always drilled into me in sports. And it's actually fairly difficult to find, like, same thing you did, Ryan. I called Ed Clark and he was like, sorry, I don't have any material. So I was like, oh, well, where can I get Itoigawa junipers with a 2.5-inch trunk caliper? And there isn't really that exists. Like there's not a lot of trees that you can just go buy off the shelf that I've found, at least. So I'm worried that some of my practice is like, yes, I'm wiring junipers, but it's not always nursery stock. Like maybe it's the second or third styling of people's collections that I find, or it's nursery stock, but it's Blue Atlas cedar instead of a juniper, right? And so yeah, I have been trying to practice though. I kind of set myself a goal whenever I found out I got into the competition. Like I'm going to style one tree per week until the competition. And that was like, I maybe styled like 5 to 10 trees last year, the whole year. And yeah, so far I've kept to that, which is awesome. I'm really proud of myself for putting that time in. But yeah, again, I'm just getting to the point where I'm like, oh, I put all this work in and now I'm like, if I just had another year, I would feel really confident. But, I'm excited that I'm improving in that I'm figuring out a direction, even if it's like, as you learn more, you find out that you don't know more. So it's been fun. I wanted to jump to one last question. If folks want to, why don't we provide a piece of advice for each other around something we think is going to be important that we've gotten from one of our teachers or that we've been thinking about for the competition. I think that'd be fun to just I think we all want to show up and do a great job and show that the bonsai community is growing and raise a bunch of money for GSBF, right, with the auctioning of the trees. So I thought that would be fun to just give each other some advice. So I was thinking of some, so I could maybe go first while people think of some. But one thing I was thinking of was along that lines of practicing how you play. I think it would be good to at least do one full nursery stock styling before the competition in a one sitting. You never want that experience of, you show up at the exam or whatever, and then you're overwhelmed by the experience. The other thing I was thinking was I'm also going to, I set up a calendar invite for myself to do some raffia tying practice before the competition. So that was one thing. I just made a little jig, and I'm just gonna, tie off some little raffia, because you don't want to be tripped up by like, oh, there's this technical thing that I need to do. You want to have that muscle memory for in case you have to apply raffia. Just be really or know how to connect the strands or whatever, and be confident in it. So those were the two things that I was kind of thinking of that I thought would be helpful for folks.
So I didn't really think too hard about what this competition meant before I signed up for it, and then it came down on me like a ton of bricks. Like, I have reasonable experience with bonsai, but not so much styling raw material. So there's a whole set of techniques that, like, you need to be good at to not embarrass yourself in this competition. Again, styling raw material from the start and working with heavy wire and using raffia and heavy bends and making good movement and on and on. So we had Carmen Leskoviansky as our headliner for our spring show, and I told her I was thinking about doing this, and she was like, just get in there and crank the branches down. And, I'm kind of taking that to heart, like, keeping it simple. I don't know what I'm going to get and what it's going to be like to work with it, but I'm not trying to show off any wild techniques or do any crazy things. I'm trying to do the basics as well as I possibly can.
Crank those puppies down.
Yeah, and not embarrass myself. That's the goal.
My piece of advice is a little less technical. For the longest time, when people would ask, like, how did you style this tree? Like, how did you figure out, like, where you want this branch to be? Like, for the longest time, my answer to them was, it's just a feeling. I don't know how to really explain it. Bonsai is an art. It's subjective. How we design our trees is going to be different from how someone else designs a tree. So yeah, for the longest time, I just kept telling people, it was like, it's a feeling. I don't know. But until I started working, I prune pines and I build traditional Japanese gardens. Something that I adopted from my boss was to look at the thing you're creating and ask yourself, is this bringing you joy? And I've been constantly utilizing that whenever I work on my own trees. Like, every little movement I do, like the way I place a branch, the line that I create with a branch, does that bring me joy? If the answer is yes, then I can move on. So that's something I'm going to be doing, is just constantly asking myself throughout the whole competition, is this bringing me joy? And then I think that will be able to keep me on track. So feel free to use that.
I love that. That's a really cool... I often approach things with like too technical of a mindset, and that's such a cool technique of like, just step back and like, is this bringing you joy? Yes or no? Because if all the rules that you worked out apply and it's technically correct, but it doesn't bring you joy, then it's probably, not contributing well to the design, right? That's such a cool tip. Thank you.
I think I'll go. Right. For me, two pieces of advice is one, as Sam Tan told me, style the tree as you style your own trees. It's like, yeah, just do how you do your own trees, and that's how you're comfortable with. That's your style. That's your style. Exactly. And then, as my mentor told me, Sam Adina, keep it simple. Keep it simple. And yeah, I think those are the two advice that I can relate to everyone.
Yeah, I love that. That's actually a good point of there. We don't really have a lot of or at least I haven't been given a lot of criteria around what the tree will look like. The material itself, I'm assuming it'll be similar to previous years, and also what are the judges specifically looking for, right? So there is a strategy, I guess, of study the judges' work and try to make something that appeals to them, right? But if you do that, you run the risk of, maybe you're not able to execute that as well as you want, right? So I love your advice, Julius, of do what you do and then, let that speak for itself. Danny or Ryan, I don't know if you wanted to chime in.
Okay, I guess it's me then. One piece of advice, I work with a lot of Ed Clark material. He grows them strong and he grows them fast, which means they have long extensions and the interior growth is shaded out and not too prevalent. So for those of you that like to clean before you start working, be careful. There may not be much left for you to actually work with if you're cleaning out all that interior stuff. It's usually pretty weak inside of those trees. And the second thing is, bonsai is fun, man. You're supposed to just be having fun, so don't let it get to you. I think last time some people succumbed to the pressure, maybe, but it's supposed to be fun. So let's just have a good time.
+1. Yeah, I love that. I'll bring the orange slices.
That's cool. I'll put them in my cocktail.
So fun with nice. So fun, huh? Fun without the pressure. That's going to be tough for me. Yeah, if there's one thing that, like, advice that I give people that start looking into doing bonsai, one of the main things another thing that I'll focus on when I'm actually in this competition is I tell people is like, don't be discouraged if you kill a tree when you're first starting. A lot of people give up bonsai right away initially because they love it. They want to get into it. The tree looks great and take it home. I love it. I love it so much. And they love it to death. And then they get so discouraged that like, I can never do bonsai. So that's how I started. I killed a few trees early on, and luckily they weren't very expensive trees. I killed expensive trees later when I got a little too overzealous, but I learned from that, and I continued, and I didn't stop learning from that because I didn't want to give this up because it was really something that, like Matt said, brings you joy. There's joy in this. There's none of that Zen stuff that I always heard about because I'm always so stressed about my trees. If I leave out of town, who's watering my trees? Are they fine? Are we going to get the Santa Ana winds that are going to come in and stuff like that? And who's watering? Did I train them properly to water all my trees in my backyard? But the way I with all my trees, the way I approach them is one thing that I learned early on when I first started studying with Ryan Neal was that every time I touch a tree, I make it look the best it can at that time. Otherwise, why am I doing this? There's no other reason why I'm touching this tree other than to make it look as best as it can when I'm doing the work. So, and that's a huge problem for me when it comes time to like, okay, I'm gonna fix up this tree because I'm gonna sell it so I can, fill up my bonsai coffers, get some more money so I can buy another better tree. But then I start working on this tree and I really start getting into it and I really start working it and I make it look really nice and now I don't want to get rid of it. So that's a really big problem for me. So, yeah, again, like I said, the biggest takeaway for me is like every time I touch a tree, I'm always trying to make it look the best it possibly can. Otherwise, there's no reason why I do this.
Yeah, we probably shouldn't kill our competition trees either.
No. I haven't killed a tree in a long time.
Yeah. No, I just meant it as a joke of like, that's also a piece of advice to take away.
I mean, it just needs to make it out through the auction, right?
That's true. Don't kill it within a few hours. That would be kind of tough, but I would be impressed, honestly, if that happened. But yeah,
my tree is showing fall colors. I don't know how.
That's plus $100, I think, on the auction. That's another challenge is if we all fall in love with our trees and then we have to bid on them. Awesome. This was actually so much fun. I really appreciate everybody for taking the time and definitely taking a little bit of the stress out of the competition. And I'm really excited to work alongside all of you on stage and, in the coming years too. So I already look up to those of you who know, and I'm sure I'll look up to the ones that I don't after interacting with you more. And yeah, I'm excited to be able to learn from each other going forward too. So super cool. This was a blast. For anybody listening, you can definitely, I'll give everyone a second to kind of share any place that they want people to interact with them, like Instagram or whatever. And then, would love to see all of you at the competition, maybe on Sunday after we've completed the showdown and gotten all the stress off. Saturday night or Sunday, definitely would love to see all of you at the Rendezvous. So definitely buy tickets and come out. So
Saturday night.
Yes, definitely Saturday
After
night.
the
We'll all
dinner.
be together Saturday night having some something to drink. So cool. Yeah, I maybe just go around and if anybody wants to say where people can reach them or how they like to connect, that would be awesome.
So I'll just jump in. I'm actually not on any social media, and I've been trying to figure out how to be relevant on the internet without being on social media. So I'm kind of like internet 1.0 status. That said, my website is barely existent, so I'll give you the URL. I don't know when this podcast will come out, but maybe this will give me the deadline to fix it. Llamas at Large.
Awesome.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you, Addison, for putting this together and getting us all kind of chit-chat and talk about exactly our goals and our stories behind why we do bonsai and how we got here. Again, I appreciate everybody's time and getting to meet everybody. I look forward to the competition and just hanging out. And I always like going to these things because I always like talking to other people that a lot of people I've only met through Instagram and they're like my bonsai Instagram friends, and all of a sudden they'll come up to me and like, hey, you're so-and-so. And like, yeah, and you are so-and-so as well. We just know each other by our Instagram titles, which mine is my bonsai journey. So every time you guys say, which is trademarked now, by the way. So every time you guys say bonsai journey, you owe me money. So just kidding. But I should trademark that. So anyways, that is my Instagram where people can reach out to me. And I do, answer the DMs and chit chat through the posts and stuff like that on my bonsai journey.
You can find me on the Instagram Apex Bonsai Studio and also apexbonsaistudio.com.
As for me, you can find me on Facebook. It's Juicy Bonsai, Jucee Bonsai. Instagram is juicy_dogtown. I haven't updated it. It's still for my dogs, but all my works are there, so you can follow me. Just let me know. Thank you.
Thanks everyone for showing up and talking. It was nice chatting with you guys. I can't wait to meet you guys, or the people I haven't met yet, in person, and to share the stage with you guys. You can find me on Instagram at Bonsai Anak. That's Bonsai ANAK. Bonsai Anak. I barely post nowadays, but I'll try to get better leading up to the competition. So yeah.
Each post is fire though, so it's worth the wait.
Thank you.
What does anak mean, Matthew?
Anak is the Filipino word for like son or kid.
Exactly. That's why I'm asking.
That's why I chose it.
Are you Filipino?
I am Filipino. I just saw your shirt and I was like,
what's up? Yes, sir.
Represent.
Hopefully we'll see some Filipino foam fingers in the crowd for the competition. Awesome. Well, hopefully this brought joy for everyone involved. And yeah, looking forward to seeing you all soon. Everyone who's listening, have a great night.